Mom had become an expert at head lice prevention by the time that the evil babysitter moved into the bedroom above our garage. Every time I would bring home one of those printed warnings from school saying, "A classmate of your child has been discovered with lice," Mom would immediately make me sit down so she could search my head, literally with a fine-toothed comb. I got head lice the year I started school, and then the next year I got them again, twice. The first time, Mom went through the ritual of picking nits, louse egg sacs, off of my head with a comb-shaped torture device that comes with Rid, the louse removal shampoo. Nits are almost clear, so they're really hard to see, and the longer your hair is, the harder to pull them off with the comb. It took over an hour for Mom to delouse my head. When I started the telltale scratching again, less than a month later, she decided it was time for me to get a bob haircut. I was mortified. I was the youngest and littlest kid in the class. The other kids called me Mighty Midget, and now I had to get a little kid haircut because of lice. Even worse, it turns out that all along, the lice had been hiding on a fake white fur jacket that was so cool and made me look like a movie star. The second that Mom spotted a bug among the white synthetic fibers, she threw the jacket away. With each snip of the scissors, I could feel my chance at popularity, at being like the other kids, falling away. This couldn't just be my private shame. Mom was going to have to tell the school that I had brought the horrors of lice back to the gifted and talented children of Miss Kazanis' second grade class. I pictured the other kids in the class reading the warning, conducting their investigation, and then launching into the devastating mockery that I knew I had earned. Earlier that year, a classmate pointed at a poppy seed muffin that Mom had packed in my lunch and shouted, "Ew, you have ants on your muffin." The whole table joined in. "Ew, gross, you're eating bugs." What would they say when I learned that I had actual bugs on my head? 3 lice-free years later, I had managed to avoid social exile. Partly because I wasn't the only one to get lice, but mostly because another girl in the class got seen picking her nose and eating it. I had lots of friends, and the dreaded bob haircut had grown out almost halfway down my back when the evil babysitter moved in. Mom was teaching art at the community college, and the babysitter was one of her students. She was 19, from a small town nearby, and she loved art. My grandmother had never supported Mom's dreams to become an artist, and I think Mom hired the babysitter to support a young woman who reminded her of herself. I was suspicious from the start. I was a precocious teacher's pet, a straight-A student with perfect attendance who swore that I would never curse, not even when I was a grown-up. The babysitter cursed in front of us. My brother and I hated smoking, and we would make loud, exaggerating coughing noises whenever we would walk past people smoking in public, or when our mother sometimes smoked at home. The babysitter smoked. One weekend, the babysitter took us to her hometown to hang out with her friends and drive around with her boyfriend, Carlos. The Guns N' Roses song, "I Used to Love Her, But I Had to Kill Her," came on the radio. He turned it up. She got out of the car. My brother and I were alone with a stranger as the radio blasted, "I had to put her 6 feet under." We drove slow laps around the park, Carlos shouting out the window more and more angrily for the babysitter to get back in the car, us sitting in the back seat, terrified about what would happen if she didn't. Later that day, they took us swimming in a reservoir where people dumped old tires and transmissions, like everything was fine. "It's dirty in here," I said. "Don't be a baby. Stop whining," she shouted back, focused on her friends. Everything was not fine. When we were with the babysitter, I had that bad feeling. The one people have when they say, "I have a bad feeling about this." But the thing that scared me more than gross stuff at the bottom of the reservoir or being abandoned in a car while Carlos sang about murdering our babysitter was being embarrassed. Sometimes it felt like there were things that everyone else knew about the grown-up world that I didn't understand at all, and I was constantly being exposed for the naive little girl that I still was. Like the time that some kids on the playground asked if I knew what the word circumcised meant, and I said yes, and then they called my bluff and laughed at me, but still wouldn't tell me what it meant, and I had to look it up in the dictionary. Or the time I asked the babysitter, "Do you ever hear a voice in your head that sounds like your own voice talking to you?" And she answered, "Yeah, that's called thinking." What if all of the stuff she did was just how cool adults act, and smoking and cursing and fighting with your boyfriend and swimming in dirty reservoirs is fun and normal, and complaining about it really did make me a whiny baby? What if my parents and everybody else were in on these realities of adult life and I could only embarrass myself by showing just how much I didn't get it? So I didn't say anything to Mom. We did try to snitch on the babysitter once. "Mom, today the babysitter went to an Exxon gas station, and we told her that Dad won't go there because of the oil spill, and there was a 76 station right across the street, but she just said, 'Well, I'm not your dad,' and went to Exxon anyway." Mom was not impressed with the seriousness of this offense. Mom also didn't know who gave me lice. Again, until she saw the babysitter scratching her head one day. We had just recovered from a second inexplicable outbreak in less than a month. The evil babysitter had brown roots growing out of her dyed blonde hair. It took Mom's expert eye just a second to spot a louse jumping around. "Didn't you notice that you had bugs crawling around on your head?" she asked, shocked. The babysitter didn't say anything. "I mean, when Lauren got lice for the second time and your head was also itching, you didn't make the connection?" Mom had become a louse detection guru. When she took to the babysitter's long hair with the knit comb, she found 3 generations of lice. The babysitter had hidden her problem until it had become our problem. But Mom gave her a second chance. One day, soon after that, the babysitter went away for the weekend and didn't come home on Sunday night. She was supposed to take us to school the next morning, and when 9 p.m. rolled around, Mom went up to the garage to look for a phone number she could call. When she opened a desk drawer to look for an address book, what she found instead was months' worth of bills for my parents' 76 gas station credit card. The babysitter had stolen one of their cards and racked up almost $1,000 worth of charges in the gas station mini-mart. Once Mom found the credit card bills, strange little moments from the babysitter's time at our house started fitting together like a puzzle. Like when Mom looked everywhere for some art supplies, only to find that the babysitter had borrowed them, or when Dad wanted to play a record album, but it wasn't in the stereo cabinet. When we searched the babysitter's room, we found the missing records, even more art supplies, months' worth of back issues of children's magazines about outer space, and my diary. The diary was a gift that I got for buying lots of books from the Scholastic Book Club. It was purple, and it said, "My first girl's diary" on the front. It was a fill-in-the-blank diary, so inside were lines like, "My favorite color is," and "The boy I like is." I had filled in all the blanks, but I had written in pencil. The evil babysitter erased everything I had written and wrote her own answers in pen. She wrote Carlos's name in my diary. As Mom left angry messages with the babysitter's family, and my parents talked about what they should do about all the money she had spent, all I could say was, "She wrote in my diary." My parents left the things that actually belonged to the evil babysitter out on the driveway and gave her a week to come pick them up. On the last day, my brother and I sat in anticipation on the neighbor's lawn with binoculars all day, waiting to run home like Paul Revere to let our parents know that the babysitter was coming and it was time to call the police. I was excited to finally see the bad guy get caught and to prove that the whole time I hadn't been stupid at all, that I had been the one who was in on something that the adults didn't understand. Around midnight that night, the evil babysitter showed up. So did the cops. The case was eventually dismissed. After all, most of the stuff was still technically in our house, but she left in handcuffs that night. I kept the stereo that she had used to play my dad's records. Later, in high school, I did the same thing, with permission, myself. When friends would notice the glow-in-the-dark skull stickers that they knew I had not put on the knobs, I would tell them this story about the evil babysitter who traded my diary for her stereo, and about the last time I ever got head lice.
That's her first time on the VAMP stage, Lauren Cusick.